I saw Peter a couple hours.
Oh, good. Her dad's big, he's big sports fan, so. Yeah.
I started on you judging. Now it's just. Why we're starting. Zoom in. Yeah. Yeah. Saw this picture. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Yeah, you saw it too. Yeah.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right.
Good. I got what Lynn's called a little rodeo along. Oh. You're not speaking today though, that's good.
Yeah, I am.
Oh. Oh, yeah, you're on the second page.
Yes. No, it's not easier than it's gonna be. Yeah, just a yeah, I mean, yeah, that.
Yeah. It has. No, but other. Not so much. Well,
Yeah.
Rob, how you doing? How are you? Good. Great. See you.
Likewise, Randy.
Yeah. Running down the line. Just like we can. That's right.
Little room.
Right? Not in Foster.
That's cool. Exactly, not very
Well, how are things here? I'm glad my fundraiser have the fresh hot that's coming in October. Hot, fresh hops. We're having close to 20 breweries. East versus west.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Across
Yeah.
the hill.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. Okay.
Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I'm gonna call the link board meeting to order. And our first item is public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to make a public comment? Anyone here that would like to make a public comment? Do we have anyone online?
No.
Last call for public comment? Okay, moving forward to the consent agenda. Selena, do you want to discuss just under you? I don't have anything to add. Hopefully everyone's had a moment to review the materials and I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Thank you. CEO evaluation process and timeline. So this is gonna work much like it did last year, if you guys remember. But I just wanted to give you kind of the breakdown of dates. So we're going to be distributing evaluations mid-October, so right after the board meeting, you will receive evaluations. If you remember, they looked like this last year. They're gonna be updated and then handed out to the board, and the deadline is November 12th. Don't make me stop you, because I will. So make sure you fill them out, it's really important. And then the executive committee will meet from 2 to 3 prior to the November 19th board meeting. And that is when we will go into executive session and have a discussion about the evaluation and the comments. A couple of questions. The November 19th meeting, several of us are not going to be here. There's a WASAC conference, so we need at least 6 board members here to make sure we have a quorum. So I'm wondering if you're gonna be at the board meeting, can you just let us know? It's
Why not
November
show of
19th.
hands? I will show of hands.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Find a calendar.
I should be here.
Great.
Can you have a hand? My brain is at the office, so I don't,
You were supposed to bring it, here, Travis.
just not that brain.
5, and Aaron is 6. Is anyone else online? Is it just Aaron?
Just there.
She usually watches them a little later. She does? Okay,
Plan.
so here's the situation. We are not planning on having a December board meeting. But if we don't have enough people to have a November board meeting, we will be having a December board meeting. Because not only are we intending to handle the CEO eval in November, it's also where the budget is approved. So Travis, we need to make sure you're at the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll follow up.
Okay, are there any questions? Oh, the other question I wanted to ask was. Is the board comfortable with Selena compiling the results of the evals?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, we asked her, okay, don't worry. Because Nick's gonna see him anyway, and Nick doesn't have an issue, but I want to make sure that the board didn't have an issue. Okay. All right, moving on, Nick.
Okay, work plan for this month, it's on page 37 if you're looking for it. We had the quarterly newsletter, which you should have a copy of in front of you. We were gonna have a fall chamber after hours this month, but since due to construction, we pushed that back into next year. Construction. We have the bus stop. We've also, since they're combined and being compiled right now, we're gonna push that back into the spring of 2025, and Christina's agreed to bring that to the board. We are way ahead of schedule on our capital facility that thus far, and we said we'd be going, we are awarded bid this month. We are in construction, mode, so we're moving forward. And the Rock Island Park and Ride, Andy, we've kind of bumped that back a little bit. It's been on the back burner because we've been so busy, so we haven't forgot yet.
Oh, no, there's still 7 years, we haven't forgot.
I know.
No, Randy.
So, couple other things here. Tuesday, September 3rd, we had a ribbon cutting for Trango, which is Okanagan Transit in Chelan. So they are now connecting from Terrace down to Chelan, catching the 21, which gives Okanagan, folks in Okanagan County, connection to Chelan, Douglas County. So that's the first time that's happened. Tim Brett from Okanagan Transit, Trango was great. They worked with Christina and her group to make this happen. In fact, there was 2 folks sitting there heading to Amsterdam. They drove down because they were afraid they're gonna miss the bus that connected to the Chelan bus, but they're going, yeah, we'll use it from now on. But they're taking the 21 from Chelan to Wenatchee to catch the Wenatchee shuttle to the airport to fly to Amsterdam. So it's actually working. Now they can go from Okanagan County. We had our financial audit. I think Mark was there, and I'm not sure if anyone else on the Zoom call to clean audit. Congratulations to Justin and Peyton for their first round. Talked about the December board meeting, canceling that. If everything goes well. Justin's been hard at work, putting together some grant applications. We have a consolidated grant. We're gonna do the Chelan Dart. We're expanding that to include Chelan Falls. We have 2 buses, so we're expanding that grant. So it's actually a new grant being submitted. We're also, for the first time, actually submitting a grant for the Mission Ridge service. So it'll be 25, 26 for the next 2 years of that cycle. And we're actually asking for a little bit more money so we can expand that service up to Mission Ridge. And the Tripoli, the volunteer driver program is also up for grant application. We applied for a green transportation grant for 4 more 30-foot electric buses. That will bring our total to 37. So that should take us through 2031 or 32 before we have to start replacing any other vehicles. The next thing we'll have to replace, as kind of thinking about it, is our 40-foot diesels. We still have through 2031, as a useful life is 12 years, so we got some time on that, but it should set us up to get those for quite a long time.
If only we had a bus barn large enough to put it.
Along with the green transportation grant, we're gonna ask for 5 300 kilowatt chargers. Each charger will have 4 dispensers, so there's 20 more chargers we'll be able to hook up to them. And these are the DC chargers, so they'll be able to charge not only BYDs, but the E-Transits or cars or anything else. Comes in through the door. Couple switch gears. I think that's it.
All right, Eric.
So we've been working on a project in the marketing arena here for the better part of 2024. The primary goal is to help illustrate to the public the different types of services. We often hear that people asking, who rides the bus? All I see are, people who don't look like they have anything better to do or nowhere to go, but just ride around the bus. So we need to counter that with a very positive message. So we worked with our video crew. Jamie Howell happens to be here today with his team to film this board meeting for but we identified a number of people in the community who are regular users of Link Transit in some form or another. And we've completed 3 videos to date, and there's 2 more that are nearing completion. So with that being said, I'll have our IT folks queue up first one here. And this is all kind of under the premise of how I roll, demonstrating, this is how these people get around a lot of the time when they're traveling in our community.
My name is Cruz Martinez. I started riding Link Plus, and it really made a difference in my life. It's easy to schedule a ride. They'll pick me up right at the door of my house. After a while, a person in my situation settles for staying home. Because of Link Plus, I was able to do things that I never would have done. My name is Cruz Martinez, and Link is how I roll.
My name is Marcella Luco, and I am 71 years old. I needed some medical treatments, and I would not be able to drive home for a few hours. I looked at Link Transit to see how I would get the bus. I have not ridden the bus since I was a child. There were so many lines and so much information. It's kind of confusing for me. I said, I'm just going to go down to Columbia Station and go in and ask them, can you guys help me? And they said, oh, absolutely. I was amazed at how fast I got from my bus stop to where I was going. The bus drivers are extremely nice and extremely helpful. I'm even thinking about parking my car somewhere. I didn't think of the gas I could save. It has been very useful for me, and I think it is very, very useful for everybody. There's no reason that you can't get anywhere in this city.
My name is Marcella, and Link is how I roll.
I use Link Transit for 5 trips or more per week. The Express has really made things nice. When I take the Express, it is faster than when I drive myself. It drops me off right at the corner of 9th and Chelan. I walk right in the building and I start my day. It's very easy to decompress, and it is the most comfortable environment I have in the day. The Express is really the way to go. I love it. My name is Dan Moody, and Link is how I roll.
Ever been daylinking? Imagine your own driver delivering you at no cost to countless adventures right here in North Central Washington. Spend a day rollicking around Leavenworth Oktoberfest, for example. Daylinking, fabulous trips, free of charge. And then let Link Transit drive you safely home. All aboard Link Transit. Find this daylinking adventure and many more at linktransit.com.
So that last one, obviously was not part of the How I Roll project. But that is, the first piece of another one that we're doing called Day Linking, and it's, going to be a series of different trips you can take on Link Transit. Leavenworth, Oktoberfest being one, snowshoeing or skiing at Mission Ridge, wine tasting, or other activities in the Chelan area. So we're developing a list of different things we can shoot for types of trips people could take as a family outing or a date night or whatever on Link Transit. So look for those coming up next year. But anyway, we just wanted to give you folks kind of a taste of what some of the projects we've been working on to help tell the story of Link Transit and how it's used by a variety of people in our community. So anyway, kudos to Jamie and his team for some really great work. And anyway, if you have any other suggestions or comments on other things you think we should perhaps be working on in the marketing, please feel free to reach out to Nick, Selena, or myself directly. So, thank you.
Well done.
Great. Hayden.
So for the month of August, 2024, sales tax earned in the month of June was $2.6 million. This was under the budgeted amount by 3.7%, which was $97,000. Year-to-date sales tax collections was $13 million, and the year-to-date budget amount is $12.6 million. So we're over the year-to-date budget amount by 4.1%, or $515,000. Last year's year-to-date sales tax amount was $10.7 million, and we're over last year's year-to-date sales tax amount by 22.8% or $2.4 million. For 2024, the budget year elapsed is 67%, which is $18.6 million, and the operating budget we have spent, it's 63%, which is $17.6 million. So we are currently under the budgeted amount by $1 million. Capital expenditures in August, we had a phone system upgrade from First Line Communications of $64,000. I don't even know what these are, Sonus readers and Trink strikers, but from ABP International for $12,000. I think that's for the new bus garage. And we spent $11,000 on bus garage phase 1 water line from Chelan County PV. Any questions?
I was just curious, looking through the reports. It's probably a much smaller detail line, obviously. How much did we spend on advertising? Just that, I'm just curious.
I don't know if I have the line item in front of me for the month.
Would you be able to get it?
Of course, but
Get it?
Yeah, I can get that. Definitely.
Any
Just
other?
send it to you directly or?
sure.
So it's, you know,
Other questions? Thank you, Peyton. Christina?
All right, so Chelan County has currently been in the design process to reconstruct the Easy and School Street intersection to be a roundabout. We've been working with them since we had 2 existing bus stops at that location to improve those stops as part of the construction process. So it's our current Route 28 that serves those stops. The improvements would include bus pullouts, ADA accessibility, some sidewalk connections, just to make kind of some general pedestrian and overall transit improvements at the roundabout. So given kind of the scale of improvements that are required, we are asking for an amount not to exceed $125,000 to fund those improvements.
Is that to replace the 4-way stop there? Is that what is going on there?
Yeah, I think it is a 4-way stop,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Make it more efficient.
Exactly, yeah. And with all those apartments kind of, being constructed, and I believe more planned, it makes sense, I think, to have some improvements there.
Christina, can you share with me how you came to that up to $125,000 number?
Yeah, and I should have had the number exactly handy. I believe the engineer's estimate was in the range of 110,000. I apologize, I don't have that off the top of my head.
That's all I needed.
115, yeah, so it allows for some additional contingency above and beyond. That number did include, I believe, 5% contingency already,
Okay.
but it won't be constructed until 26, so it gives us a little leeway given the time frame as well.
Other questions?
Mark, it's actually broken down on page 58.
58, thank you.
I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-19, the Chelan County interlocal for Easy Street and School Street roundabout.
Second.
Right, any further discussion?
I will be abstaining from the vote.
As will I.
Why?
All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Thank you. HR, Julie.
So we are asking the board to approve a new position, facilities maintenance worker 1. So as we've seen an increase in our ridership, we've also seen an increase in garbage and maintenance of bus stops and shelters. And have come to the realization that we're just not quite able to keep up with our standards for bus stops and shelters. And needed an additional position that will be the purpose of that position is really to keep up on the cleanliness and maintenance of bus stops and shelters. It would have an impact to the 2024 budget of about $13,500. Any questions?
13,500, that's pretty cheap. Is this
Well,
part-time or?
No, we're just figuring for the 2024 budget that we'll have a couple of months worth of salary and
Oh, okay.
benefits.
How much is the
So-
total salary or cost?
Of course, I don't have that actually in front of me.
Probably
But I can get
72
that
if
for
you
you.
like that. I don't know, I'm just guessing.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it is wages and benefits in that number.
What's that one?
And that's along all routes, all stops. Correct, yes.
Julie, is this also maintenance or is it strictly just janitorial or that?
The primary purpose will be for bus stops, to clean bus stops. We are seeing a tremendous amount of garbage.
Sure.
So this person will be picking up garbage, cleaning the stops, and will they also do maintenance on the stops? Yeah.
So,
Okay, and they'll do things like weeding the grass and pulling weeds and that sort of thing. So stuff that right now our facilities folks are not able to keep up with.
Julie, I think the idea guy may have some numbers.
Other questions?
Yeah, this was actually brought up to us by a couple coach operators who were at a Team Link meeting, was telling us how poorly some of our shelters look. There's a few that need maintenance almost every day. So they're so heavy, so we went out, looked at them, we agreed, and then that's when we went down this path. Well, we think it's a very well worthwhile project. Position.
How many people do we have doing this now?
So we currently have 4 facilities workers.
so there's 4 facilities workers that cover all stops, all buildings. All facilities, any repairs, parking lots, everything else that we have going there along with our garbage runs. Garbage runs are done twice a week. It's not enough. Garbage runs have went from a day of 1 truck to a day of 2 trucks full of garbage. To get through the Friday route. It's the worst of it, but Saturday, my guys are spending doing garbage. It has become a very large portion of it. It's just been garbage. For what they're doing along with the rest. This position is their sole job is to maintain buffers and stops throughout the entirety of what Link services. So every day they're doing Wenatchee, East Wenatchee, and they're going part of the routes. Washing, weed eating, you name it with a stop, that's their job.
Any other questions? May entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve this additional bus stop maintenance position as presented.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, great. Ed?
Nick and Ed,
Mhm.
Nick and Ed. We'll let Nick do a little bit of this talking.
Okay, so as we all know, we found a great vendor to come into the cafe. Cafe was not up to code, so we're currently working with the city and to get it up to code. Ed finally found a mechanical engineer coming from Seattle, came over to that. They've already come over and we're putting together schematics of what we need. So we'll need full ventilation, and like we talked last month, let's do it right, so we have a cafe that's ready to go for the next 25 years. And so that's what we're looking at now. We have 2 levels of hoods, one's level 1, which would be giving us ability to the fryers, and level 2 is more of a lighter weight ovens and dishwashers. So we're gonna get costs in both of those and see what we take. But basically what this does, it takes the current lease, which the current new operators signed, and so they need to start paying rent, I believe, in July or August. And they have not been doing that, nor paying their leasehold tax, so we get a finding next year's audit. So we're gonna take and rewrite the lease.
No, we're gonna,
First amendment,
you're gonna amend the lease,
amend the lease, thank you.
an addendum to make. No, because neither party right now is really able to perform the obligations under the lease. This would allow Link to waive the collection of that tax through January 1st, 2025. Yeah.
You start up again.
Yeah, and if for some reason they take possession earlier, you can revisit it, and if it's later, we can revisit it again.
Questions?
Roughly it's a 5% of sales lease.
It's actually 12.84.
No, the gross sales. So you have two portions of payment, from what I understand. One is the excise, which is 12.8, and then
That's leasehold tax.
leasehold tax, yeah, and then the actual rent is a percent of sales at 5%.
Once they reach a certain limit.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any? Next year it goes up to 5.
It was supposed to be a flat 500 starting in January,
Yeah.
plus leasehold tax, and then after we reach certain limits of sales, and then it would go up percentage.
Which I did the math at 5%. Okay. Is there any increase as years go on, or is it just stagnant at 5%?
As the gross sales goes up, so does the rent. It's in the clause.
But it stays at 5%. Is there a 5.5 or
Oh, I
6
see.
or?
Okay, yeah, no, at this point, it's
Thanks.
So what's the overall cost that we're looking at?
to get this done. We don't know yet.
Okay.
We're still waiting for the engineer to get back to us, and then we'll get a cost of what it takes. And can explain.
This is literally just amending
The
the
agreement.
agreement that we currently have going, and neither one of us can meet. Well, the cost yet, I don't know. I was hoping while I was on vacation last week, I would have got an email that said, hey, we think it's gonna be this much and that.
So we don't want to charge them while they're not actually using it.
Well, and my recollection too is that the first bid from July 1st to January 1st is just the leasehold tax. So it's not a significant amount of money.
$64.
I would make a motion to approve the Columbia Station Cafe lease addendum.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on.
Yeah. State Patrol. Take this as far as I can possibly take it for a minute. So we've been looking for a place to do coach operator training for quite a while, and a course to do it at. We have been performing this in and around between the shop and the current bus barn, and the other side of the bus barn, between the bus barn and the fuel island for a number of years. It's pretty hard to do during the day when buses are moving around, especially technicians going in and out of the shop. So we've always been looking for a place that we can change it up. State Patrol's got a really nice lot right behind it, that is currently covered in just dirt. There's a little bit of rock and a little bit of it. They need a use for it. We need the space, so we went to them and said, hey, what do you think about a joint agreement for, like, I think it's 25 years? 25 years of lease agreement. If we do the improvements on the land, fence it, we're also gonna fence in their bullpen for the whole process, so that they actually get a little benefit out of it also, that their bullpen's secured, where they park their personal cars, the police officers do, and their patrol cars. we did a quick engineer's cost estimate of doing all of this, the drainage, the asphalt, fencing, grading. We're not gonna do a whole lot of grading in it. We cut back on a lot of that to try and keep it the price down, because we were gonna try and change it to even a larger space, but it wouldn't have been significant enough. It came in right around $800,000 to do the whole deal. This may not include some of the electronics we need for 2 electric gates. For their entrance and exit. Excuse me, guys. I went to the Pelton Roundup, got a little messed up as far as voice.
What happens when you go on vacation?
Yeah, it does. So currently we're, I think there's 2 steps away.
Yeah, we're down to, they want to see it, engineers design to drainage, which Eric Howe's working on currently, and then the other one is electronics with electronic gate openers. And we're working with them. We don't know if they want us to use ours or if they want to put their own in for their own security purposes. So we're just down to those 2, but we think the Interlocal has been pretty solid. We've addressed all their issues. We have, Aaron's looked at ours. And so we're here to have our, and move forward with that. So we're just down to a couple of items. And along with the 25-year lease, there's 2 10-year options also. So that we could potentially have it up to 45 years. Which is, you spread that cost over even 25 years, it's pretty minimal cost to have a training facility. Instead of using that 7 bus barn facility, which is very unsafe. You have people walking in there, vehicles going. And this, I know Lynn's group, the trainers would love this. They think this would be an awesome place because we can set up a rodeo, the whole training facility year round.
So I think it's right around 55,000 square feet. Memory serving correctly.
Questions?
So there's no other cost other than our initial improvement for the 25? Seems like a pretty big deal to me.
Yeah.
There, I mean, other than maintenance costs, yes. I mean, there's gonna be resealing it and different things like that over the years, taking care of the fence, other than maintenance costs. Yeah, but other than that, here's a great big lot, and we're just under agreement to use it for a training facility. It's not for us to store buses on or things like that, it's a training facility, so it'll always be open to training. Like Nick said, the other one is we might actually be able to host a state rodeo. Because we actually have the space to do it.
So today you're just asking for the interlocal.
Yep.
Not to spend $1 million.
Correct. No, there's still a design phase, bidding and all kinds of good stuff there to do, Travis.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-20, authorizing Link Transit CEO to enter into an interlocal agreement with the Washington State Patrol for improvements to and use of Washington State Patrol property for the purpose of transit bus driver training.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Construction update.
Plus barn construction update, real quick, they're pretty much on schedule. Had a few little things come up in the process. I've given and taken, I think we're about $23,000 into our contingency. But there's been some give and take on some other things, which has been good. Most of what we found so far is PUD vault that nobody knew was there. A well, how do they call it? Nick? It's like a well testing pipe or something, or a well water pipe.
Oh, is that well?
It's not capped. I can't remember what it is.
Go down, find out.
Basically, they gotta just lower the top of it. It's some testing for underground water depth. That goes really, really deep, but we can't cap it. We just have to lower it and put a new cap on it. We did make a little upgrade to the insulation on the entire 41,000 square feet. To an increase of about $10,000 for another inch of insulation underneath our heated slab. That was a pretty good deal for 10 grand. Yeah. Other than that, they're moving right along. They were supposed to pour footings today, didn't happen. I'm hoping by Friday they're pouring footings. But that should put them still on schedule that by the end of next month, there's 41,000 feet of concrete that's poured.
Wow.
It's moving. It's amazing to watch. We're less than 2 months in. It's cruising.
No more videos for?
I'm surprised we didn't have one going today, cause there's a if anybody wanted to be really interested in it, I'm sure these guys can send you a link that you can log into and look at it anytime you want it, cause it's the whole field. In one shot.
Is that possible to the board? If you send that to me, I want to send it along.
Right, any other questions for Ed?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Might show a little bit today. All right, so I do need to get a presentation. If you want to do it. Oh, sure, yeah, it's the service guidelines on, yeah. All right, so service guidelines and performance measures. The full report is in your packet. I'm gonna try to just hit some of the highlights of it today. But it is timely for us to be updating it. The last one was 2013, so 2024, it's time. So sort of what are they? So essentially service guidelines provide a bit of a framework for how we provide service in the community. So in terms of service design, coverage, where our routes go, route design, sort of how we put them together and how they operate. Passenger load, that essentially is some guidelines around how many standees we allow, vehicle assignment, what types of buses go on what types of service. Service level, what hours do we operate, how often, access to opportunity, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later. And then performance measures, so specifically, how are we measuring and evaluating our service? So we are looking at on-time performance and route productivity specifically. We also divided our service into classifications. It doesn't necessarily make sense for us to be looking at our urban routes the same way that we look at our commuter routes. So throughout the report, we've kind of divided things up into these 5 different service classifications. So we're looking at our urban area, our regional frequent service, which is our 21 and 22 up to Chelan and Leavenworth. Rural coverage, which is our service to Rock Island, Malaga, Waterville, and Kashmir, and then special services that kind of don't really neatly fit into any of the other categories, as well as our DART service in Chelan and Leavenworth. All right, so I'm gonna talk about the performance measures first. So again, there's kind of 2 categories here that we're looking at. So on-time performance. This made sense for us to kind of look at across the board. 85% is our recommended standard here. We did do a pretty in-depth analysis of our current system just to kind of figure out where we are, make sure we're in the right ballpark for what is included in the report. So essentially what this means is 85% of our service needs to be within our on-time window. We measure that with the scheduled time. We need to be within 1 minute before or up to 6 minutes after the scheduled time. So that's kind of the time frame there. And then we're looking at productivity as well in terms of boardings per revenue hour and boardings per trip. Kind of the difference for why we're looking at it a little bit different depending on the service classification. Productivity per revenue hour makes sense in an urban context. But looking long distance routes like to Chelan and Leavenworth, where you're traveling long distances, there's long distances, you're not picking anyone up, looking at that at the trip level, just kind of is more standard practice in the industry. So that's kind of what we've done there. And then we wanted to have a really clear process for how we're looking at our routes and evaluating them and actually an actionable way to make improvements as well. So I'll quickly kind of walk through what this looks like. On an annual basis, we're gonna look at all the routes in the system, figure out what is underperforming based on the standards from the prior slide. We'll then divide those into categories. So routes that this is the first time they've shown up on the list, and then routes that this is the second consecutive year that they've shown up on the list. For those routes where it's their first year, we'll try to just start to investigate why we think they're underperforming. So we'll gather data, we'll talk to drivers, we'll kind of figure out any information that we can. and consider some initial options for how we might improve those routes if they are underperforming. For the ones that have been underperforming for 2 consecutive years, those will kind of go on an improvement watch list and be targeted for kind of more specific further action. Should I have a question? Not yet, okay. And then the kind of what we'll do with that improvement watch list is develop some really targeted actions, just depending on what the issues are, the specific route that it is. So that could be better marketing, that could be better alignment with service guidelines, like maybe the span or the frequency isn't actually aligning with what is recommended. That could be other route modifications, like maybe a better destination at the end of the line, or maybe a route realignment to serve kind of higher demand generators along the route. So then we'll implement within 18 months of putting it on the improvement watch list. I know that seems like a long time, but there is a lot of kind of pre-work that we need to do, you know, identifying what our action's gonna be, as well as just kind of getting it into our run cut process. So we have to think pretty far in advance on that. So after 1 full year of operation, we'll evaluate again. If the route meets targets, great, that's awesome. No additional action required. If it still falls below the minimum standards, then we'll see maybe there's something we didn't do before that could improve the route. If possible, we'll go through those steps 3 to 5 again. If it's not, you know, if it's just not gonna happen, we'll look to either replace the route, that could be maybe replacing with a different type of service, like a DART on-demand service, or eliminating it as kind of a last resort. That's what that looks like. Right, any questions on that or the performance measures? Yeah. And then moving on to service guidelines. So why are these important? It's really essential for us to have parameters for what defines what good transit service is. So helps us articulate where service should be provided, what the service looks like, what the appropriate service levels are. Again, we want to make sure service is really productive and, you know, an appropriate way to evaluate as well. I'm not going to hit on all of these in detail, but I did want to talk about some of the pretty important ones. So route design, there's a few just kind of best practices in the transit industry that we want to make sure that we're aligning with. So service that's simple, direct, symmetrical, and efficient. So simple, that's having service that's every 30 minutes, every hour, on what we call a clock face headway, so it's easy for people to remember. That helps with ridership, actually. Having really good, clear passenger information is another element there. Direct service, so service that's, you know, essentially doesn't have a lot of deviations. It's pretty same to the path of travel you would use to drive. So very convenient access. Service that's symmetrical, so 2-way bidirectional service, the same alignment in both directions also is a lot easier for people to understand. And an efficient service that is based on demand, that has optimal kind of layover and cycle time. What that means is, you know, essentially, we're making sure that our in-service time is as great as it can be compared to the time that we're just, you know, maybe sitting for a driver break within reason. And then where services are not very frequent, making sure that timed connections are planned really well. And then in terms of service coverage, there are a number of guidelines that kind of demonstrate where transit is most effective. So making sure that population and employment density, which are some of the most important factors in how well a route's going to perform, are aligned with the type of transit service that we're providing. So the report does have some pretty detailed maps if you're curious and want to dig in with our service area and kind of how they align in terms of job density and population density. And then looking at just the type of service and the frequency of service in those locations. Surprised to no one stands in the urban area, as you might guess. And then access to opportunities. This is kind of a new thing that we're looking at, but essentially we looked at transit propensity throughout our system. What that means is there are certain groups of people that typically are more likely to use transit service. So the groups we looked at are youth, so under 18, folks above 65, zero vehicle households, people with disabilities, and people under the federal poverty level. And so we identified where those locations are, and then we did an analysis to determine kind of which routes have more of their service in those locations. The idea being that routes that have kind of more stops in higher transit propensity areas, we would target those for better frequency and longer hours of service. That lets us connect those folks to, you know, the education, to jobs, kind of everything that they need to get to in our community. So we took the top 5 routes through that were identified through that process and have labeled those access to opportunity routes that we're targeting for the beefed up service. 4 of those are urban, so South Wenatchee Route 9, Route 6, also in South Wenatchee down to Boudreaux Street, Route 3, which operates up Okanagan to the hospital, and then the other urban route is Route 18, which is largely in East Wenatchee, but also kind of serves over to the hospital and the college as well. And then our rural coverage route is Route 23 to Rock Island, came up in that list as well. And then the other service guidelines that I won't go into detail about now, unless there are specific questions, are related to service span, frequency, passenger load, and vehicle assignment. Any comments or questions?
No? Yeah. Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-21 concerning service standards and performance monitoring.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello. Today I will be talking briefly about the no-show policy for our paratransit. We're proposing an update, so in your packets, there is the new proposed policy as well as the old language that is crossed out. The main takeaways for the updates, like what has really been taken out, is just the unnecessary and kind of confusing pieces around rolling over no-shows. So if a rider misses a ride for their paratransit service, then that one would stay on for so many days and then another one could occur, but then that one would roll off, and it was confusing for not only us to manage, but also confusing for our passengers as well. So the updated policy or proposed policy removes that piece and is more in line with what other agencies do. We ran this policy through a focus group of social service providers, explained it, went through basically like every change that we were going to make. They provided us with really great feedback, which we also added. It was just like little phrases or little tiny things. And then overall, they really liked the ease of the new policy. Any questions around it? I could go through the policy, but it's not very.
Should have read it before. Questions?
What sort of percentage of no-shows do we have?
I don't know off the top of my head. Deborah manages our no-shows, guest services manages that. I don't necessarily do that. It is very low and it is very uncommon that someone even goes through this process. Like very, very low is what Deborah's told me. Yes.
All right, I would entertain a motion.
There's a hand raised.
Oh, and thank you.
No problem. Just a quick question. I'm just curious, how is it communicated when riders need to show up for their pickup window? This is specific to the implementing procedures that are in the packet, where it kind of gives the example of the riders given a pickup window from 2:10 to 2:32. Assume the driver arrives at pickup at 2:12 and waits. They only wait for 5 minutes. Is it really clear to the rider that they have to show up by basically 2:10 and the ride could show up at any time? Because I would think that I can show up anytime between that window and my ride would be there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So when an individual qualifies for paratransit, they have to go through an interview process. And during that interview process, we explain it. And the policy piece that you are seeing, while that is public facing, that is not necessarily customer facing. It is not the easy, simple to understand and to read. So in our paratransit like rider's guide, it explains it in very simple and straightforward language. That's much easier to kind of comprehend. That is a valid point, and the policy itself is not something that, I mean, paratransit is intended for individuals with disabilities. So it's not necessarily a policy that's super accessible to everyone, which is why we simplify it, check the readability and ensure that all of our users can access it. Did that answer that appropriately?
I think so. Thank you.
For questions, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve resolution 2024-22, a resolution amending policy 4 of Link Transit's ADA paratransit policies and procedures manual to provide clarity and to align with the industry standard practice.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Christina, you're up again. Yep.
Okay, so East Wenatchee redesign. I am pleased to announce that we opened our survey as of yesterday, so that is currently live. Talk a little bit more about kind of what we're asking about and what to expect. So this was from our onboard survey, which was conducted in October of last year. It's just a reminder that people are asking for more service in East Wenatchee. So this is a really good time for us to kind of be thinking about it. And we are targeting implementation. This is mid-2025, but October 2025 is the current timeline. So we've built 3 different scenarios for what service could look like in East Wenatchee. These are based on, comments that we received, prior survey efforts like the onboard survey, input from operators and just other kind of general transit best practices, including some of the ones I talked about just a few minutes ago. So these 3 scenarios test different ideas. They overall represent similar levels of investment. So it's really just kind of like different ways to provide better service in East Wenatchee. And it lets us kind of really see what people like and what they don't like. And ultimately we'll end up implementing kind of the best of the ideas. So it'll be a combination versus just one scenario in its entirety. In terms of notification and opportunities for feedback, so we've done quite a bit, and we'll continue kind of throughout this outreach period. So we've have posters and flyers on our transit vehicles and at transit centers, as well as inside our operations facility. We've put seat hangers on our buses. I think we weren't quite at 100% of the buses as of today, but we're pretty close. Those essentially hang on the back of the seat. There's like a QR code people can scan to access the survey. We sent out postcards to everyone in the East Wenatchee zip code to, kind of provide a direct information about the survey. We're doing advertising, both kind of traditional media as well as social media. We'll be doing some in-person events at the mall, Fred Meyer, Columbia Station, as well as print and e-newsletters and kind of information on our website. And the survey is blocked there, but it is available through October 18th. So that is upcoming. And we did schedule a presentation at the East Wenatchee Council actually. So that'll be on October 15th. So that'll let me kind of walk through maybe some of what we're hearing as well. So that'll be good.
So what kind of responses have you gotten?
Oh, great question. So I checked earlier today and we were at 38, which I think is very respectable for it being open a day essentially so far. So, hopefully we'll see responses continuing to come through.
Great.
So I'll quickly kind of talk through the scenarios and happy if there's any specific questions to walk you through anything. But again, kind of 3 different ideas for how we provide service in East Wenatchee. So our scenario 1 focuses on sort of improving service in places where most people ride. Scenario 2 focuses on this new hub model in East Wenatchee that really focuses around the East Wenatchee Park and Ride, so very different than kind of what we do today. And then scenario 3 focuses on coverage, so serving more locations as well as introducing some new service types, essentially a new DART service in East Wenatchee. There's some common themes as well, including that two-way bidirectional service that I mentioned, and getting rid of loops where we can. Expanding area, expanding coverage, rethinking service that maybe isn't performing as well as we want to see right now, connecting major destinations more directly, as well as just general safe operation of our service. So scenario 1 has a few things that I want to call out, and you'll see a couple of repeated things in these two, but new service on Grant Road to Pangbourne. Pangbourne is a very frequently requested destination for us. And so this would allow us to serve kind of the new development up Grant Road as well as the airport itself. This scenario does provide a fixed route service option to Fancher Heights, which was one of kind of the Vision 2020 elements through an extension of our existing Route 5. And also this scenario rethinks some of the service to Rock Island. It keeps service on the highway kind of until you get to Rock Island, and then also adds a new option on Rock Island Road that would serve the Hydro Park. So I'm very interested actually to see what the public has to say about Hydro Park benefits. Scenario 2, again, this kind of focuses on the East Wenatchee Park and Ride as a new hub of service. So there's a few different ways that we've done that in here. And one of it is actually reworking some of our existing routes. So Route 18 right now does not come back to Columbia Station. It's one of our only routes that does not do that. This actually would bring it back to Columbia Station and then implement a new Route 19 that goes from the Park and Ride and then over to Wenatchee to the hospital and the college. This also does have service on Grant Road to Pangbourne, but you'll notice it continues via Batterman to Rock Island. So that's an idea that's come up kind of multiple times in conversations that I've had. So see kind of what people think about that as well. And then scenario 3, you notice a trend looking at service to Pangbourne via Grant Road. Just kind of has it on 4th in Kentucky before heading east on Grant. This does have more direct service to Rock Island via SR 28, so it stays on the highway. And some new DART zone, so general public on-demand service in East Wenatchee that lets us expand to Fancher Heights, provides an option for Rock Island Road that we kind of be vacating with the Route 20, with the Rock Island service, and some new neighborhoods that we just don't serve at all right now. So it's a very quick overview of these.
So we can only have one, I can't have all three?
Ooh, you can tell me what you like the best.
Oh, okay.
So, and then we'll, yeah.
Arts and pieces.
So yeah, then good time to talk about timeline and next steps. So the survey's open through October 18th, so about a month-long time frame there to gather input. We'll take all of that and then in November, December, work on our preferred recommendation. We'll take that back out for comment in early 2025, just kind of make sure we've gotten it right. In March and April, we will finalize our recommendations, bring it to you, of course, and once approved, move forward with implementation planning. And there's a ton of stuff that we'll have to do with that, you know, adding maybe new bus stops, changing bus stop numbers, new maps, etc. And then our current timeline has us implementing at least the first phase of recommendations, which we'll kind of determine through the process here in October 2025. Cool. Any questions I can answer?
Rock Island, I like the direct one. Run direct down the highway. Can you overlap that
Three, he
with
likes three.
like every other, you know, trip? So some are direct and then some of the slower
That's
route.
something to think about. Take the survey, put it in. I got it.
You're taking the survey.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. There's a lot, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can do it. And that's kind of part of the fun, but also part of the puzzle. Is how do we put it together in a way that works the best for the most people?
Isn't that how we kind of do it up at Chelan and Leavenworth? Some are direct, high speed routes and then others are, they get there, just like. slow.
Right, yeah, we've kind of added some extra service, right, that does that. So yeah, the direct way, yeah. Right.
We'll send a link out for the survey. It'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You'll be getting a postcard in the mail if you live in East Wenatchee or Rock Island, probably today or tomorrow.
Perfect.
But anyone can take it.
Anyone can take it though, yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Gabby.
Okay. So for August, total system boardings in August was 114,423. So we are climbing back up. I imagine school being back in session has helped that a little bit. That is from June to August, that's a 1.8% increase, and 23 over 2024 is a 17% increase in boardings for the month of August. So the trend we like to see, class 1 or higher preventable collisions and incidents, 0. Very excited about that. So big thank you to the operators. They're doing a fantastic job, and also a shout out again to training. So combined fixed and paratransit service complaints this month, we were at 7. So we're still meeting the goal of under 9 once again. So it's very exciting. These are really wonderful reports to give you. Cost per hour, we're well below the goal. We're at $142.88 for the month of August. I was pleased to see that with our new class and everything that wasn't an issue. We're doing well on that as well. Cost per boardings are also well below our budgeted $25.35 at $20.06. East Wenatchee and East Wenatchee boarding by route. The route 2 is still the favorite. So that one's still winning. Again, right behind that is Target. So the route 2 had 9,361 boardings for the month of August. The Target route, route 7, had 8,835 boardings for August. Route 18 Cascade looks like it is, dropping off a bit. I imagine that will increase with school being back in session. That's a very popular route for East Wenatchee High School. And as well as the 12th is also very popular. Nope, the 11th. The route 12 goes on the 11th Street. It's route 11. And then intercity boardings by route. So Leavenworth came up a little bit more from July. So this month in August was 15,481. Chelan for August is at 14,568. And overall for Leavenworth, between the 122, the local 32, and the route 22 is 19,273 boardings. And the route 32 local, that Leavenworth local, that goes in the corridor, was up 7.5% in boardings in August from July. Any questions?
Great numbers. Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss prior to adjourning? All right. We will adjourn until next month.
1 hour.